Bitcoin took that swing to the downside. The argument of this being the resistance is now clear. That thought process of this range should reject the price is now the reality. So, strength in the market kind of gave you the direction that it is at a resistance, and that made a lot of difference. If you watched all those negative divergence which we were plotting and talking about, especially about these smart contracts, now you know what is happening. The market kind of gave you the clear idea on which front it is running. And look at XRP. It's way stronger. I mean, it's exceptionally stronger than I thought, because I was personally thinking a lot more about the price action coming back to a term support, or at least close to the week highs. And now you see the fact that the market is showing you a lot of different things, but especially for XRP, things are heating up, especially on the front of news narrative changing, the shift that is here. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where the normal retail guys get to learn how to become the next top 10% of this world. While we look at all these things, you need to keep in your mind that the fundamental side of this asset, its utility, or it's going up. I mean, it's skyrocketing with all that we are watching. Now, on the price action side of things, the short-term side of things, we saw how Bitcoin's move kind of pushed altcoin market to the downside. And we also understand that the asset which dropped double that of Bitcoin had negative divergence, whether that's in smart contracts or in gaming. Wherever you're looking at, some of those assets were showing you the negative divergence before, and now the price action showed it is real, that it is negative. Now, on a 4-hour chart, while you look at Bitcoin, this should not be underestimated, because short-term bounces usually come from short-term supports. Now, this is what you watch on the RSI for Bitcoin on a 4-hour chart, which means there is higher odds that the whales may actually push that back up, either to test the moving average or to test that trend line which we broke before. If that's a fake breakout, which it seems right now, it means you should come back down. Now, you also have a trend line formation. If you can come back up, retest this trend line, and then get rejected, that is going to show you we are going to come back down to that support zone of 90,000, 92,000 range. This is a consolidative range which we want to see Bitcoin fluctuating for a few months. Why? Because when you come back into the 2021 era, you kind of get to see something similar. The price leaning this way. And then you see this range was active. Now, what is the deep down trouble part of this? That was at 26% at the biggest point of that drop. Now, come back up, current stage, erase everything, look at what the price action is doing. Have we done that 26% drop? And if we are to do that from the local high, that price seems to be $80,000. So if we are to repeat the history, there is room to the downside. 1. 2. That's based on the average moves of last time. But if you do take into the consideration that the pattern and the structure, the formation kind of came close to this range. It stood above that level, which means it should be able to stay above this range here, which is $87,000, $88,000. But as of now, you did not breach that 91. So we would like to see this top, which has formed as the local high, and this one making this swing low. If this push to the downside can break through this barrier and reach 88 and take support, next one, what you're going to see is a bounce. That is clear. But if we break that to the downside, no, you're not going to look for such a move. Rather, in Bitcoin terms, you can only look for such a bounce here and then getting rejected. So if you do get to bounce through this level, that would be the confirmation on a macro cyclical perspective that you're topping out. Now, on a market cycle perspective, for this cycle, Bitcoin cannot give you more than this in terms of clarity, saying, but I'm topping out. Yeah, you're literally watching the possibilities. Now, if you are a bull inside this market for Bitcoin and you're looking at this price action, all that is aligning with you is the price structure which you can observe here. Yeah, that does show you there should be some more downside because this is the actual bottom and you wick below that. This was the scenario which we were explaining based on the price structure, because that also argues that if you do this, yeah, there is a possibility that you may come back up. Now, why only they? Not like this, because you already have a negative divergence on a weekly, on a monthly, and on a quarterly. So the odds of that kind of a run to the upside is very, very low. Now, come back in to the Bitcoin dominant side of the equation. Why are you still optimistic about altcoins when Bitcoin is showing you all this craziness? This is a huge question I'm trying to answer. Look at the Bitcoin dominance. The top we formed back in November 2024 to this point, this trend line which you can see in front of you is valid. What does that mean? A rejection at that trend line is going to give you another drop to the downside. So you saw we had similar trend lines before. We respected it. Right now, if you do the same, you have a long way to the downside, which again is what we want to see. So a break of this particular trend line should be the key for us. We saw that we gave up trend line 1, we retested it and got rejected. But the trend line 2 is now a support. So if you do break to the downside, your base measured move to the downside becomes a 10%, which means around 47. Now, what's so special about 47? That range has been the previous range of resistance for the accumulation zone in Bitcoin dominance, which means it does make a lot of sense if the Bitcoin dominance is about to fall down to 47. Now, as of now, it wouldn't look like that, but in a month or two, when we do drop, it would look kind. Now, come on to XRP side of the equation to understand what the altcoin market is doing. So in the altcoin segment, what we can watch right now is a lot of choppiness for sure. But look at the weekly candle. It kind of gives you some idea, a base idea, saying this range has been a resistance before, now it's not. This range was a big resistance before, now it's not. It just turned into a support zone. Again, a zone. Yeah. So the price can come back down into that zone before it bounces off, and that would still be a optimal thing for XRP holders. Now, this is one of the reasons why when the price was going back up, you were asking, why are you not buying it back? I told, no, I won't buy it here unless it comes back to my expected support. This is exactly what I told back then. Yeah. And I was watching this trend line as I was posting it all over the SI family, where we were giving you the right perspective. Now, you got rejected. What next? On a daily chart, you're still holding on to the 21-day moving average, which is something for the bulls to cheer. But the trouble here is that the 3-day chart is showing you I'm breaking below this trend line, which means you have a bit more room to reach that trend line support. Now, say you're optimistic and you're saying this level is going to be retested, not in the price terms. Don't get confused. Now, this is that retest region. If the RSI can literally come back down and retest this zone, I would be happy to say, yeah, the price may retest just this zone. Great. But the RSI is about to retest this and bounce off. That is going to be one of the biggest area which the XRP holders should be interested as of now. Fine. Now, if you do see this bull flag breaking to the upside, it is very optimistic. But what are the odds for that? You go on a weekly and you observe. The weekly chart suggests I'm making bullish engulfing candles. That is good. I mean, that is one great bullish engulfing candle. If this week becomes an inside candle, if that becomes an inside candle, next week is most likely a continuation attempt, at least an attempt. And if that attempt can break through this 2.9 mark, oh, we are good to go. We're good to go to the upside. And we all know what the upside would mean for XRP while its monthly RSI still remains this high. But we don't want to get a rejection at 2.9, because if we do, then the support is 1.5. If we get to bounce from 1.8, yeah, we break through this. But if we don't, we attempt that $3 mark again and get rejected. There is a huge possibility while Bitcoin pulls the market down. But we're not here at 0.3. We are not here at 0.5. We're here upside. Now, why is that so important? Because the monthly, when it shifts to the upside, you know where we are going. The weekly chart kind of gives you the idea that you may have some pullback, but it doesn't matter. You are in the overbought region. When you enter the overbought region once, you're now going back. You trend to the upside. Now, take XRP against Bitcoin. I would be happy if the majority understood this. You are now at a range resistance, trying to break through that. And previously, whenever we have been there, we never saw this amount of support, which means the buying power entering into XRP compared to XRP. So while you compare it with the Bitcoin to XRP terms, you kind of get that. Now we know why that's so. We kind of understand why that's so. There's a lot of bullish things happening in the US, and the talk towards the new president entering, you still have a few more days, right? So once you ride those volatility, the market is expecting a lot. But look at the breakout and its retest. Say, put it on a monthly, it can be a little bit easier to understand. You plot this XRP to Bitcoin chart and you see, okay, we had a macro breakout. Now, this is a weekly, yeah, not short-term chart. So the weekly kind of argues you had a macro breakout, and last time you did that, the troubling part is you did get a drop. While the Bitcoin dropped, the Bitcoin to XRP dropped 65%. What would such a drop this time mean? A retest of this before you head back higher. So the XRP to Bitcoin argues it still has a lot of dry powder to run up. Why? Now say you're a clean price structure guy. You see the 1, you see the 2, and a boom. Yeah? Now you see the 1, you see the 2, and most likely what? A boom. Yeah? Now, zoom into each of those. You kind of get a double bottom structure like this. A double bottom structure like this. Perfect. So each of those two legs rhymed with each other within that macro cycle. Now, in here, you look at this. You have a textbook double bottom structure. You have a textbook double bottom structure. So they are rhyming within the same cycle. So the next pump should be the biggest. Yeah? There is a lot of confusion in the market, but if you stay with the macro chart, you are going to do extremely well in your long-term bag. So make sure you don't get distracted away from your long-term bags and you hold your long-term bags tight. You don't play around with it. You can play with 5 to 10% if you like, but the big bags which you held all these years, that's where you're going to make the biggest gains, and that is exactly where you should not be taking huge risks, especially if you see a negative divergence. So be in the SI family to get all these divergence call outs, shout outs, especially at the resistance. Now it's not the time at the support. We are high in the sky. So we're looking for the resistance. So whenever we are at a resistance, you will see these kind of shout outs in the SI family. Use the link in the description below. Jump in with the 1,500 plus members and enjoy this market cycle. I'll meet you guys on next video. Bye for now.